myself, Dr. U.E. Chaudhary, Professor and Head, Department of Chemistry, Mahatma Phule Mahavidyalaya, Road. Today we discuss here the fifth unit of chemistry topic, that is thermodynamics and chemical equilibrium. First of all, we define here what is thermodynamics. Thermodynamics is the branch of physical chemistry which deals with the study of various chemical reactions. That is, what are the chemical reactions which are takes place in nature that we can study in thermodynamics, and what is the effect of temperature that we can also study in this thermodynamics topic. First of all, we define here the laws of thermodynamics. There are various laws of thermodynamics. First law of thermodynamics, second law of thermodynamics, and third law of thermodynamics. The first law of thermodynamics is that energy neither created nor destroyed. It is only converted from one form to another. That is, this is nothing but the law of conservation of energy. We also know the second law of thermodynamics. There are various statements of second law of thermodynamics, and one of the statements of second law of thermodynamics is that the energy of the universe always remain constant. Means around us there are our universe, there are three galaxies. Out of these three galaxies, one of the round galaxies and two are long galaxies. The total energy of this universe always remain constant. This total energy consists of two parts. One part is available part of energy, and second part is unavailable part of energy. The part of total energy that is available for the useful work, that part we call as free energy. Means here we define the two definitions, free energy and entropy. Total energy of the universe always remains constant. In that total energy, there are two parts. One is available part, second is unavailable part. This available part means the part of total energy which is available for the useful work. That energy we call as free energy. And the part of total energy which is not available for the useful work, that energy we call as entropy. Means here this is total energy, this is total energy. This total energy contains two parts, isothermally available energy and isothermally unavailable energy. Here Q is the total energy. This is isothermally available energy and this is isothermally unavailable energy. Because if we want to calculate the isothermally unavailable energy, we know that entropy S is equal to Q reversible upon T. Entropy S is equal to Q reversible upon T. Means whatever the energy exchange reversibly at particular temperature, that energy we call as entropy, and therefore Q reversible is equal to ST. This Q reversible is nothing but the unavailable part of energy, that is we call as entropy, and therefore this entropy is nothing but is equal to S into T, and therefore this Q is equal to available part of energy and this is unavailable part of energy. This is nothing but the entropy, and therefore from this we calculate the available part of energy, and this available part of energy is nothing but the, if we take this T into S on the LHS side, and therefore it comes out to be Q minus Ts, and therefore Q minus Ts is nothing but the available part of energy. That available part of energy we call as free energy, and therefore available energy, this available energy we denote it as Z, and therefore Z is equal to Q minus Ts. This Z is equal to Q minus Ts is called free energy. Now this free energy, any system can be absorbed in two ways, by keeping the volume constant and by keeping the pressure constant. If the available part of energy is absorbed at constant volume, then it can be referred as Helmholtz free energy, or it is called work functions, and therefore this Z is equal to E minus Ts, which is absorbed at constant volume, and this Z is equal to E minus Ts we call as Helmholtz free energy. If the absorbed energy is absorbed at constant pressure, then this can be represented as Z is equal to H minus Ts. This H minus Ts is called Gibbs free energy, and therefore we can represent this Helmholtz free energy and Gibbs free energy by another two notation, that is A is equal to E minus Ts. This is nothing but the Helmholtz free energy or work function, and Gibbs free energy can be represented by G is equal to H minus Ts. Next one. Now here we discuss what is the meaning of Helmholtz free energy. The part of total energy available to perform work at constant volume is called Helmholtz free energy. Means if any system absorb energy by keeping volume constant, then that free energy we call as Helmholtz free energy, and it can be represented by A is equal to E minus Ts. Now suppose there are any system work in two states, initial state and final state. Suppose A1, E1, S1 are the free energy, internal energy and entropy for the initial state, and A2, E2 and S2 are the Helmholtz free energy for the final state, and therefore A1 is equal to E1 minus T1 S1. This is the difference between S2. This is S2. This is S2. And A2 is equal to E2 minus T2 S2. This is for initial state and this is for final state. And from the initial state and from final state, we can calculate the change in free energy, change in work function, and therefore this change in work functions delta A is equal to A2 minus A1, or A2 is equal to E2 minus T2S2 and A1 is equal to E1 minus T1S1, and therefore this term we take on this side, and therefore E2 minus E1 minus T2S2 minus T1S2. If this process is carried out at constant temperature, then T2 is equal to T1 is equal to T. We consider it as a constant temperature, that is T, and therefore this delta A change in work function, that is Helmholtz free energy, delta A is equal to delta E minus T delta S. Next one. Now here we study the significance of physical significance of Helmholtz free energy. We know that delta E is equal to delta E minus T delta S. This is the change in Helmholtz free energy or change in work function. The change in work function or change in Helmholtz free energy is equal to change in internal energy minus T into delta S. Here delta S nothing but the change in entropy. We also know that delta S is equal to means change in entropy. Delta S is equal to Q reversible at T, means heat exchange or reversibly at particular temperature. This can be represented by delta S, and therefore Q reversible is equal to T into delta S. Putting this value into the equation 1 comes out to be delta A is equal to delta E minus Q reversible. Instead of T delta S, we can put here Q reversible. This is equation number 2. But from the first law of thermodynamics, we also know that Q reversible is equal to delta E plus W max. We know that first law of thermodynamics, that is energy neither created nor destroyed, it is only converted from one form to another. Whatever the Q energy is absorbed, this absorbed energy is utilized here to change the internal energy, that is from E1 to E2, and the remaining energy can be utilized to do work, that is volume increases. As the volume increases, some work is done, and therefore whatever the Q energy is absorbed, this absorbed energy here utilized for two purposes. The first one, to increase its internal energy from E1 to E2, that is delta E, and the remaining energy can be utilized for to do some work. Next. From the equations 2 and 3, it is found that delta A is equal to minus W max, or this is weighted on the LHS side, and therefore minus delta A is equal to W max. Here negative sign indicates that change in free energy decreases. Negative sign indicates that free energy decreases. Whatever the free energy decreases, that decrease in free energy is converted to work done. That is maximum work done. This is the physical significance of this Helmholtz free energy. Next. Now here we study the Gibbs free energy. Before this, we explain the Helmholtz free energy. We define also the Helmholtz free energy. Whatever the free energy absorbed at constant volume, by keeping volume constant, that energy we call as Helmholtz free energy, or it is called work function. Now we define Gibbs free energy. Part of total energy available to perform work by keeping pressure constant, that energy we call as Gibbs free energy, and this Gibbs free energy can be represented by letter G is equal to H minus Ts. Suppose this system work from initial state to final state. For initial state, Gibbs free energy G1 is equal to H1 minus T1 H1. Here H1 represents the total heat content, T1 represents the temperature of the initial state, S1 represents the entropy of the initial state, and G2 is nothing but the free energy of final state. Here H2 represents the total heat content of the final state, temperature T2 represents the temperature of the final state, and S2 represents the entropy of the final state. And therefore here we get the Gibbs free energy G1 for the initial state and G2 for the final state. The difference between these two, we get G2 minus G1, that is delta G is equal to G2 minus G1 is equal to H2 minus T2 H2 minus H1 minus T1 H1. or this H1 we can subtract from H2, that is we get delta H. Delta H is equal to T2H2 minus T1H1. Next one. If the process is carried out at isothermally, that is by keeping temperature constant, in that case T1 is equal to T2 is equal to T, and therefore delta G comes out to be delta G is equal to delta H minus T delta H. Here delta G is nothing but the change in free energy, and delta S is nothing but the change in entropy. Now this is nothing but the change in free energy or change in Gibbs free energy. Now we can discuss here the physical significance. This is the physical significance of Gibbs free energy. We know that G is equal to, that is Gibbs free energy is equal to H minus Ts. But we know that H is the total heat content, enthalpy of the system. This enthalpy, total heat content of the system, is equal to E plus PV. E is the internal energy and PV is the work energy, and therefore total heat content, total enthalpy of the system is equal to total internal energy plus work energy, that is H is equal to E plus PV. Putting this value into this equation, that is G is equal to E plus PV, instead of H we can put up E plus PV, and therefore G is equal to E plus PV minus Ts. Differentiate this equation. We differentiate partially this equation. By differentiating this equation, we get dg is equal to dg plus pdv. Initially we put p as a constant and we differentiate volume, and therefore p into dv. In next time we put volume as a constant and we differentiate pressure, and therefore next time it comes out to be v into dp. Minus, this is temperature. Here temperature maintains constant and we differentiate entropy, that is dS. Minus, S remain constant and we differentiate T as a dt. Therefore this equation comes out to be dg is equal to dE plus pdv plus vdp minus tds minus lg. The process occurs at constant temperature, means this process we can follow at constant temperature. If the process is carried out at constant temperature and pressure, therefore dp is equal to 0 and dt is equal to 0, because derivative of any quantity comes out to be 0. If we are taking 2, ddt of 2 is 0. If we are taking 10, ddt of 10 is equal to 0, and therefore here P is constant, temperature is constant, and therefore the derivative of this is 0. P is constant, therefore derivative of this T is 0. Putting this value, dP is equal to 0 and dt is equal to 0, this equation comes out to be dG is equal to dE plus pdV minus tds. But we know that tds is equal to dt. Tds is equal to dt because entropy ds is equal to dq reversible, that is this ds is equal to dq reversible upon t, and therefore dq reversible is equal to ds into t. This is nothing but a change in entropy. Change in entropy is equal to heat exchange reversibly at particular temperature, and therefore dq reversible is equal to ds into t. And therefore putting this value into this equation, dg is equal to dE plus pdv minus dq. But according to first law of thermodynamics, what is first law of thermodynamics? Energy neither created nor destroyed, it is only converted from one form to another, that is dq is equal to dE plus W max. Whatever the amount of energy absorbed by the system, this absorbed energy can be utilized for two purposes. The first purpose is to increase its internal energy from E1 to E2, and remaining energy can be utilized to do some work, and therefore this dq is equal to dE plus W max. Next one. And therefore this equation comes out to be dg is equal to dE plus PdV minus dE minus W max. Here dE cancel out, and therefore dg is equal to PdV minus W max. Or change the sign. We change the sign of every term. Therefore this term comes out to be negative. This term comes out to be negative, and this term comes out to be positive. And therefore minus delta G is equal to W max minus P dV. Here what happens? PdV is the work of expansion done by the system corresponding to increase in volume. Means if the volume is increases, by increasing the volume, whatever the work done is done, that work done is PdV. And therefore W max minus PdV stand for the maximum work other than the work of expansion. This is the work of expansion, and W max minus PdV is the work of expansion other than this one. This is called the maximum useful work available from the process. Thus it can be concluded that for the process occurring at constant temperature and constant pressure, the decrease in free energy here the dg, the sign of dg is negative, means here free energy decreases. Whatever the free energy decreases, that decrease in free energy is converted into some other work rather than pressure volume type work. This is the physical significance of Gibbs free energy. Means here Gibbs free energy decreases. That decrease in free energy is converted into some other work rather than the pressure volume type work. This is the physical significance of Gibbs free energy. In this way, here we explain the definition of Helmholtz free energy and Gibbs free energy. We can also explain the physical significance of Gibbs free energy and Helmholtz free energy. In this way, here this topic is complete. Next time we start the new point. Thank you very much.